I grew up in church, an environment where parents instill a certain manner that you should behave.
Yes.
Makes you feel a bit, I'm not sure how to put it, maybe timid, reserved. So I grew up really reserved, and I grew up thinking Uti church is all about, you know, Miss Serious, like
outward
exactly.
behavior. Yeah.
Like I would think Uti being vocal about everything that you go through would actually mean Uti you are not a Christian. Exactly.
Start over again.
So you being free and you talking about your daily experiences to voice out your feelings.
When you know yourself, you realize Uguti Unkulunkulu did that on purpose.
Yes.
He gave you your personality on purpose. He was intentional about Uswo being Swo. And then when you're trying to be who everybody else says you should be, then ultimately you're walking outside of your identity in Christ.
You no longer align.
Exactly. When He has placed in the lineako certain things that you will only get by being the Swo that He created. That He defines, you know? Yeah. So as much as, I mean, kumnandi to live a life that is pleasing to the eye, the general public, the church at large, but not to the detriment of your very true self.
And losing yourself in the midst of trying to make other people happy. How are you doing?
I am good. So I'm good. As good can be. That's what I said to my therapist the other time. I was like, I'm as good can be. Yeah. Most of the time, I don't think Uguti, we can treat unjan.
Yeah. Sometimes when a person asks you Uguti unjan, sometimes you just say I'm good.
But you're not really good.
So what has been going on in your life recently that you expected and ones that you did not expect?
I can say expected. I moved. Remember I told you, I moved from my place to back home. So that's something that obviously I knew I was going to do. And then unexpected, I would say enjoying being at home.
Oh,
yeah,
that's nice.
Because when I moved out of home, I wasn't in a correct mental space. So I just had to go and be in a space of my own for a little while. And I was anxious leading up to moving back home. But I've actually been so happy. I've been so happy. Even driving from work to a car, I'm not like dreading it. I'm excited to just get home and be comfortable. It feels like home. And for me, home, I never thought would feel like home because I lost my mom and it just became this cold place. So I feel like uNkulunkulu slowly and surely we are seized. I didn't expect it. I thought I'd be anxious and sad all the time. But by God's grace, I'm really, really happy being at home.
I remember you lost your mom. I'm really sorry about that.
Thank you.
But how's your sister as well? Because I do know one sister of yours who's there too. How have you guys been?
So we're good. I have two sisters.
Okay.
There's an older one, but not a lot of people know her because she's very reserved and she lives in PMB.
Total opposite of you guys.
Total opposite of me. My older sister never talks for any reason whatsoever.
That's what I like who's there too. Like, yo.
My older sister she's like my mom. She will.
So let us get into the topic of today, which is mental health. I decided to do an episode on mental health because besides the fact that it also affects me personally, on a personal level, because that's what I've been through. Notice, Duguti, with all of these things that people are mentioning to me, there are actually symptoms that are leading to or actually sort of symptoms that I noticed with myself. Okay, right now I think I'm falling into depression. Now remember, S'phesihle, we go to church, which is from our black society, and our black society means it's actually people who are coming from the same background as us, people from the same culture. So they bring their culture into church, and with them bringing that into church, they also have this mentality of if ever you say you are suffering from mental health because you actually have demons.
Yeah, you're not Christian enough.
And you
don't pray.
Yeah, we just need to cast that out. And uzoba right. From my perception when it comes to it, I actually noticed it's actually a mood disorder. It's a mood disorder in a sense, Yoguti. It's normal for you to, it's natural for you to feel sad, to feel low at some point in time, and to feel some sort of detachment, man, from the world, and be like, you know what, I just want to be on my own, because I feel like whenever I'm around people, I get to experience all these feelings that I don't want to experience. But it's up to a certain point. It's natural up to this point. The minute it exceeds, like the minute it's prolonged, it's for more than a month or more than 3 weeks, you are feeling the same thing over and over again every day, that means you are not balanced in terms of your feelings. So I just want to understand from your point of view, Uguti, what does mental health mean to you as a person?
So for me, mental health is more than just how I feel, right? Like we shared when we were having our conversation, Uguti, I suffered from depression after losing my mother.
Yes.
Which is obviously not shocking. It's a huge trauma to lose Umzali, especially Umzali, who was extremely present. I'm not even going to say extremely present, the core parent in Empilweni, because I lost my dad when I was 15. So since then, my mom has been Ugyal by herself, and honestly, just
the only parent.
And my parents, just the best people I've ever met. My sisters and I, we were really so blessed to have them, you know. So it's more than just about how you feel, because a lot of people banally misconception yoguti being depressed is just feeling sad. It's like, just get over it, just be happy,
snap out of it, just, like, you know, as if it's that easy for you to just move on.
And it's not, and I'll tell you why. Because now when I was diagnosed with depression, it was very bad, to a point where I was admitted, I was hospitalized for depression. So when I was hospitalized for depression, I attended a therapy program, which I love it so much. And I wish it was actually more accessible to people in public health. But school therapy program, they do presentations and they teach you about the very source of depression and the different types of depression, how it starts, what's involved in it. And then in its true essence, depression is gulo, like any other illness.
Yes.
So if you have the flu, or you have cancer, or you did not switch that on, you know? So you can't just go to a person who has cancer and say to them, just
snap out of
the cancer. Stop it. You know?
You're whining.
I'll call away. Pray harder. You know? Because they didn't bring it upon themselves, so they can't lift themselves out of cancer, because really they didn't, you know. So it's an illness just like any other illness. And when I was in hospital, I got to learn that depression is an actual chemical imbalance in your brain, a chemical imbalance in your brain. Now, your brain that is responsible for every single function in your body.
Now, how do you control that?
How do you control that? You know? So, for example, if when une iron deficiency, the doctor will give you iron supplements. And then iron supplements are going to raise your iron levels, and then you're going to stop feeling tired all the time. You're going to stop uzoba right. Same with depression. You have an imbalance of these very essential hormones that are needed to control things like your mood, things like metabolism emzimbeni, things like imicabango yakho, ukuthi ucabanga kanjani, how do you view the world. Yes, we can be sitting here, the both of us, and it's so bright in the room, but for me it's so dull. Because I've got this chemical imbalance. So when the doctor prescribes for you antidepressants, it's like iron for your iron deficiency. Here's your antidepressant.
Same as
they are
any
going to
sickness
raise
that you find out
the
there.
low. Yes, they're going to raise the levels of the low hormones, and then you will then begin to start functioning like a normal human being. Because it's normal to then, when I got to school, you love church, you love to worship, you love your friends, all of a sudden you hate it.
Yeah.
You can't, for the life of you, find even inspiration to take a shower. Taking a shower, which is good for you. It's good for you. You love long showers, you love long baths, but you can't, for the life of you, do izinto kanjalo. Being with your friends is good. You love being your friends. So for me, mental health is more than just I'm sad. You know, it's deeper than that, yabo. And I feel like the reason why we have a stigma as black people, it's because the minute we say mental,
yes.
you know, so we often
She
have
should
to
be
say,
admitted.
yeah, we often have to see in this little present and say, no, I'm having mental health issues because now sazithi nokuthi nje kwathiwa mental illness uyahlanya ngekhanda. And sadly enough, you were just mentioning now about being part of the black community, things like depression and just expressing yourself as a human being are very abnormal in the black community. And what I was just talking to my colleagues the other day, I was making an example, in a white community, when you're sitting and you're watching a movie on TV and the movie is sad, a white child will cry.
Yeah.
During the movie.
But
when you're black and you're
uh-uh.
watching a movie and
You
the movie is
can't.
sad, how dare you story jealous, and then you have to suppress
imagine
your
there are
feelings.
people who are going to be looking at you while you guys are watching the movie,
Yes.
and they're like,
Uyakhala yini?
Exactly. So
I
it's
was
a
saying that to
thing.
my colleagues. In the black community, we just have no space for human emotions other than being cool, calm, and collected. And iphuma history yethu, we are survivors. Siyazi history yethu. I guess our people, maybe they didn't have the time to be depressed when they were depressed. But manje, I feel like depression is rampant. Iyavela ngathi ama millennials, and it's worse with ama 2000 Gen Z. Because manje,
They are
we've
so
gone
real
too
with their
long.
feelings,
Yes, we've gone too long ignoring it, yabo. So abazali bethu yes siyabaphi grace. They've grown up in a period where depression, anxiety,
Yini
I've got to get to work. I don't have time to say I don't have the energy to go to work. I don't have time because my kids are hungry. I have to go, yabo.
Yeah.
I have to. So wherever
Whether
that
I'm
they've
feeling okay or
worked,
not.
bona basebenza, basifike to a place where now sesifigile. Okay, finally, as black people, we've arrived. We are normal.
In a sense.
In a sense.
We have not reached at the level, but
we're very far.
Exactly.
But we're normal in a sense. Now we're able to connect. Now there's more education on mental health. Now there's, so then S'phesihle, now the symptoms are starting to show.
Now, prior you having depression, did you actually have an understanding of what it is growing up? Or
No.
is it something that you only got to understand now?
Yes. So I didn't know much about mental illness growing up. In fact, Angita, I was saying I lost my dad when I was 15. My father was killed very brutally. So when that happened, obviously, the best man I've ever met. And I'm not only saying
How
this
old were you?
I was 15 years old.
Ish.
So I'm not even saying this because he's my dad. He's literally the best person I've ever met in life. You can even ask a random stranger who has met him. They'll tell you that man is the best person
That's
they've ever
beautiful.
met in
You
life.
hardly hear things like that in
And
our
my
black
mom,
community.
both of them, just the best people I have ever, like if I grow up to be just nje, not even half, even a fraction of who they were. But I was saying, whenever I lost my dad, I'm in a black household.
Yes.
So, even emlindelweni kuthiwa ningakhali kakhulu niyamvimbezela nivimba indlela yakhe inyembezeni
zizovimba nje
ningakhali kakhulu engathi
uthi hamba ubheke emuva.
But my question is uNkulunkulu uyifakile ke inyembezi
Senze njani?
Zishonephi bangcwele? Uyifakile uNkulunkulu.
Sizenze njani?
Wafaka ne mechanism yokuthi makunje ziyaphuma. Where do we put them?
But guys, I don't know where did our parents get these memes.
Lord,
yeah.
Lord. So manje sinalento ukuthi suppressing emotions is our thing as black people, uyabona. So when you suppress emotions, okukutshela ukuthi they don't go anywhere. They stay. Yeah. It's like you breathe them out. No, emotions that are not expressed, they pile up and pile up and pile up and pile up and pile up until it's too much. Then the body begins
like, no,
to
I
say,
can't handle this anymore.
Yes. So that's what happened to me when I lost my dad. When I lost my dad, this, that, and the other. So, you're one of the therapy program they teach you that your body is a horse.
Okay.
And
He's
you,
okay.
the person, are the rider. You're riding the horse. Yeah.
Okay.
So they teach you if you're riding a horse and the horse tells you, I'm thirsty, when you keep going on, keep going on, keep going on. And then the horse says, I'm hungry. You keep going on. The horse says, I'm tired. You keep going on. The horse says, I'm sick. You keep going on. What eventually happens? The horse throws you off and it goes like kona manzi, or it goes like so pumula kon. That's what happens with depression. Your boundaries have been we.
But you've been ignoring them.
Something sad happens, you didn't cry.
And it's not because you don't want to cry, but it's because the people around you are not allowing you actually.
Yes. So when I learned that, yangivulela i-insight yokuthi kwakenzakalani kumina ngesikhathi ngishonela ubaba. So mina ubaba uyashona and ngina 15 years. By the time I'm 20, 21, I'm in university now, I start getting sick. I pass out eskoleni for no reason, and stuff like that. And my mom takes me to a doctor. GP there's nothing wrong with her physically. She needs a psychologist. And I went to a psychologist.
Oh, you started very young.
Yeah, so I went, that was the first time I ever went to a psychologist.
Okay.
So I get there, the psychologist abuzuma a few questions. Ma, do you have a husband? My mom says, Sewa Shon. Ashuguti, how did he die? Ashuguti, he died by murder. Amuzama questions about me. Does your daughter suffer from ulcers? Yes, she does. Ganjan. And then he asked my mom to leave the room. And then he asked me about my dad's death. And let me tell you, for the first time ever, that was 5 years later, I cried. I cried so much. Because that man asked me, how did you feel when your father died?
Sure. And that feeling just came right up.
From 5 years ago. Yabo. So when that happened, I'm a psychologist. And let me tell you, I was in university living at Reyes. My mom was living at home. But we would meet up at the psychologist's office every Saturday, just for her to sit outside on the couch. Alinde, ngenzi therapy session yami, mse siyahlukana futhi ngibuyele Resi, she would go back home.
Queen.
The best girl, just the best girl. And they prescribed me antidepressants. Ngaleso sikhathi, I didn't know. My mom was in charge of my health. She didn't give me access to those antidepressants. Why? Because mental illness is taboo in the black community. It's such a taboo topic. So Uma was just like, hey, so
she was like, no, I'm not going to give them to her. She took these
pills and she hid them.
So for a long time, she had been hiding all these pills from you.
So she hid them while I told her prescription. She never went back to get the other prescriptions. And yeah,
Yes, doctors don't really do follow up, eh?
yeah. And then Uma was a nurse, and nurses have a very skewed view of umuntu or a patient who's on antidepressants. So they've seen abantu be admitted into the psych wards to this is depression, this is depression. So they've never really seen a depression njengeyam noma njengeyakho, where we present as normal people, but we still need medication. So they've seen people who are very extreme into their depression.
So for them, it has to get to that severity before they...
medication ebalide to that point. So there's no way I'm going to allow my daughter to take that illness, because it's like my emotions are going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. So I went on with my life. I'm right. But can you see what I'm still...
But you're not okay, actually. You're actually suppressing.
Yes.
Or you were actually trying to find a way to cope.
Yes.
Because you had no other choice.
Yeah.
That's what you were given, and you thought
black,
this is
I
enough.
have to be fine. Yes.
So
eventually it comes to the point of losing my mom, and I obviously I couldn't cope. And
now, when did you find out that your mom had actually been hiding pills?
So I asked her one day, and angisazi ukuthi ngangimbuza ngoba kwenze njani, ngangade ngizwe something, and then I said, "Ma, what's depression?" And then she looked at me and she said, "Yini, are you depressed?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just asking because I heard something on TV." And then later that day, half. She gave me half a pill, and then I looked at it, and I took it, and I drank it. And she must have been thinking, "Oh dear God, this child knows she has a depression diagnosis now. Maybe I need to give her this medication, you know?" So it's only years later, like what
parents are sly, hey?
What my antidepressants? He wasn't even giving me the full.
She was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna..."
Yes.
Yabo.
And that was not even gonna work because my antidepressants take like 4 to 6 weeks to start working. So Leo half a pill wasn't gonna help. But I guess for her it was like, let me just try.
Now that I'm hearing you explain it, I'm trying to actually picture you after losing your mom, depressed, going to your doctor, and your doctor is telling you, actually, you're actually depressed at that time, and right now you actually need to start going on your antidepressants over again. On top of that, I am sure, you actually had that sort of layout in your mind, if I was depressed, what is it that I have been doing to suppress my feelings? So what habits do I have to change now in order for me to understand myself better? What are the habits that you had to change and the habits that you are trying to like work on?
So it's been a whole different ball game, being someone who's depressed, not knowing it, and being someone who's depressed and being very aware of their mental illness. So for me, I honestly would encourage, number one, therapy.
Yeah.
Therapy. We all need therapy, but black people the most.
Yes.
We need therapy, guys. I feel like abantu they think. I remember my therapist. She told me, "I wish we could change the word because there's just this stigma surrounding therapy." But I always tell people, even if you're embarrassed to go to therapy, I'd rather you go. I hate therapy, and then go
so that you get better.
So that you get better. We don't need to know. You have medical aid, it's piling up. You haven't been sick in 3 years. Take some of it, go attend to
use
therapy
it.
and use it. You don't have to scream it. Yeah, don't scream it of the S'phesihle.
Because people don't want everyone to know I'm actually going to therapy because of how it has been presented to us.
Yes. So just go therapy. Number one is the first thing. That's in fact, therapy. I started it after losing my mom. I stopped briefly, and now I'm back on therapy.
Okay.
So secondly, into that has been like a game changer for me is feeling my emotions as they come. So I it's a very difficult thing to do when you've grown up suppressing every emotion. I've realized even when I'm excited, I tend to not be able to show it. So sometimes, oh my gosh, guys, I'm actually really happy right now.
I'm actually the total opposite, yes.
I've seen and I admire that about you.
No, but I wasn't like that.
I love that.
I think
so much.
for a long time, S'phesihle, I grew up not knowing how to express myself. I was the only child, and all that I ever knew was people who were just, everyone who had an opinion about me being the only child.
Yeah.
Hey, you have everything, Wena.
Yes.
Hey, there's nothing for you to complain about.
Yeah.
Hey, what? Hey, you are beautiful, Wena. You would actually feel exactly.
You must feel guilty for
being
blessed.
Exactly, you would feel guilty for having it.
Yeah.
So I grew up not knowing how to express myself with people around me, friends or whoever, because even friends were like that. But when you have everything, Jay, you can't even say anything. You can't have an opinion in this matter. When you are complaining about something, you don't have a say. So
that's a whole other topic.
So now that I've grown up, as I said, we experience mental health in different ways. I actually experienced it in a different aspect of my life. And when I experienced it, I got to understand, actually, you've been avoiding yourself just so that uzofila like part of, in order for me to be accepted by everyone around me, I would have to
deny myself the right
shrink
to be me.
everything that is about so that I can be accepted. And when I fell into depression, that's when my therapist started asking me all these questions that led me to understanding, actually, this is what you've been doing. And that's what I've been working on. That's why I express myself. When I don't like it, I don't like it. When I like it, I like it. When I want to go there, I go. When I don't want to go, I don't. And trust me, it's a process.
There is power in that.
It's a process,
It's at this cut, which
you would think you have mastered it with this.
Yes.
And then you realize, I'm still doing the same thing, even with this now.
Yes. I would say, what you're telling me now is something that I've only, literally recently, I told my doctor, I've recently unlocked anger. And when I say unlocked, I mean I've never genuinely been angry until very recently. And it's so detrimental to you to just keep bottling those feelings out, because manje, it's like I see an injustice done to me nje as a person. I wasn't allowing myself to be angry. When every other human being out there is allowed to express themselves. If you've treated me unfairly, why have I denied myself?
Because they make you feel bad even for being angry.
Yes.
Sometimes that's what they do.
Yes. And for me, it was such a revelation for me, because it's like, you're a Christian. How can you be angry? You're a Christian. God says, ungalali udiniwe. God says, how can you be an angry Christian? But right now I can tell you, I am the angriest I've ever been in my life. And that's because of all that anger that I've avoided. When I could have,
for a long time,
when I could have felt my feelings right there and then and said, "Sangtand," and then allow you to say, "I'm sorry for treating you this way."
Sometimes you don't even say it in a rude way.
Yes.
It's just you saying "Autan," because that's how you feel.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you tell me you don't? How dare you have a boundary to protect yourself?
Entitled.
So for me, feeling my feelings is such. It's been such a game changer for me. That's the one habit. Another one is prioritizing rest. As black people, but it is as black people, because sine culture yoguti kumele sisebenzile guys kuzodliwana ekhaya and stuff like that asifani namelungu
then you overwork yourself.
You overwork yourself.
Yes, but I don't even want to get into that.
So I told myself ukuthi God rested, so he wants me to rest as well, and there's no stipulated time in the Bible.
I think that's
so
the aspect
you must
in my
rest
life
for this much, and now you're being lazy for not resting this much. I had to accept ukuthi asifani like at all. I can't compare myself to you, and you can't compare yourself. There's so many factors about us as people, where I can't say ukuthi because you're depressed and I'm depressed, you rested for 1 day, and manje mina I shouldn't rest 3 days. You know. Prioritize when you're depressed, you're tired, you don't have energy to do anything, you know. So I had to prioritize rest.
It's actually the body shutting down. It's tired, and you've been denying it what it wants.
So the host said,
it
okay,
does it for you. It's like,
yes,
let her do it herself. Yes. Let us see how she's going to do it.
And you know what Leo burnout? I learned recently, it takes 3 to 5 years to recover from burnout.
I know. And I was because so that's shocked. Where I've been. As I said, we went into depression in different aspects of our lives. I think I've overworked myself in order for me to avoid feeling my feelings. In order for me to avoid having any sort of emotional breakdown or anything, I would ensure I push myself. I would work 10 times worse than I have before. Just so I ignore anything that has to do with feelings. I would run away from the people around me. I would run away from church sometimes. I would run away from my family just so that I don't get to feel. So in 2020, when I was diagnosed with depression, that's when I learned I have actually been overworking myself. And somehow, as much as COVID affected us, but I am glad it came because it gave me rest. Something that I did not know.
Were you guys working from home?
We were not working from home. But I am running a business on the side, and I'm also working full time.
Oh, so the business took a pause.
Exactly. So it took a pause, and we were also given like a week off. Sometimes it would be a day off, day in, day out at work.
Oh,
it
that's
really
nice.
gave me rest.
It was every day. Nothing has ever changed. Ever.
Social distancing? Story for another day. But as you are mentioning this, I'm starting to realize that sometimes we use a lot of different techniques in order to avoid our feelings, you know. So yeah, you were still saying
I also prioritize a relationship being a resting place as well. But also it's being a resting place, not just a war zone.
That just hit home.
Not just, Lord, am I pleasing you right now?
I totally
Lord,
get
am I, you know? So for me, I really had to, like, I feel like for space because I would get to church every Sunday and just press on the same issues, about my depression, my home situation, my this, my that, my this, my that. And then I got to a point where I started asking myself, where do I draw the line between trusting God and looking like I've given up? Because I've been praying about these things, right? And I'm not getting better. So does that mean uNkulunkulu uyangiziba? Or does it mean that it's just angilinde isikhathi sakhe? And if I stop praying about these things, does that mean uNkulunkulu uzothi I didn't pray enough about it? Or does it mean uNkulunkulu uzobona ukuthi sengiyekiswa ukuthi sengiyamethemba ukuthi ngesikhathi sakhe uzokwenza lokho athe uzokwenza? And me asking myself those questions brought me to a point lokuthi it's actually people who could say, I haven't prayed enough. Because
it's not God.
It's not God.
It's not God.
So I got to a point where God showed me suffering is a part of life. You don't pray suffering away.
Yeah.
You don't pray it away. It's a part of your life. Every single one of us, at some point, we will suffer. And uNkulunkulu will use that suffering to teach you things that you could have never otherwise learned had you not suffered. There are lessons that you will never, ever.
Things that you can't run away from.
Suffering is a part, just as much as joy is a part of life. When you're going through a happy, when you get married, you have children, you graduate, you've never prayed it away. Yabo? You've never said, Lord, it's too much. Take some of it away. Suffering is a season just as much as those seasons. And sonke, we're gonna go through it. And the fact that we're suffering doesn't mean he's not there. uNkulunkulu ukhona in our suffering. And then when I realized that ukuthi God's presence can also be my resting place, I realized ukuthi mina naye sohlala la, and I'm gonna suffer until he takes me out of it.
Do you not feel like there should be a better way of portraying who God is in church?
Yeah.
Where people won't have to feel guilty.
Yeah.
In order for them to serve God. Because now I feel like we are actually serving God out of guilt instead of serving God just because we understand the fullness of his love. You know? Like, can't you just serve out of love rather than yabo? Because all of these things that you are mentioning, and as you are saying, it's definitely God who would say, it's not God who would say, you have not prayed enough. It means there is somewhere where you had that voice that said, you guys are not doing enough.
Yes. Like, kusakude sifike lapho as abazalwane, but I feel like we're slowly getting there. Kusakude, but as a person, you have to have iwili yokuzifakela nawo ama-boundaries. Ukuthi okay, amazwi asibonimani ngiyawezwa, but I'm not going to take them because they are not the word. Uvesiba.
Yabo?
That's my favorite question in the world. That's my favorite question in the world. I just say uvesiba loyo. You know, because sometimes you truly abantu they will ngamagama. You know, we can all say God said.
Yes.
God told me. I actually, guys. So this.
I think I've heard it so much.
Being a depressed Christian is hard, but you know what I had to do? A lost habit that I formed, or something that I had to change, is that I had to step away from every single thing that was draining my energy, because I didn't. As when I lost my mom, I didn't have the energy to even breathe.
Now tell me, the energy that you were feeling, how did people from church receive you with that energy? Yes.
Yeah, that's a story for another day. I feel like we would need like a completely different video.
I'm actually asking this because I've noticed, Uguti, it is a church where they don't understand depression the most. So that's why I'm asking, Uguti, there's probably a time or a season where you were depressed and you could not do certain things at church and you were feeling some sort of way, because you don't want to get at church and pretend to be something, or pretend to be feeling something that you are actually not feeling. And I feel like it's hypocrisy for abazalwane to get to church while you are feeling down, you are not okay, and then you get there and be like, hallelujah, hallelujah, but that's not what you're feeling. Why can't you be yourself and be honest with your feelings before God, and before us, especially because we say we are a family. They received you well with your sickness.
So with abazalwane, that's my final point. Was actually going to speak about what you were just saying now. I was saying ukuthi ngizisusile from everything that drained me. And by removing myself from everything that drained me, it included serving in church. And I was actually quite anxious for those reasons that you just mentioned now. I was quite anxious ukuthi bazothini at church, that I want to step down from the worship team. I remember there was a time when I said, can I please not come to church physically for the next few weeks, because I just cannot.
You cannot.
You know, so I had to spend like a lot of time being anxious to send those messages to my church leadership and say, well, you know what, I don't think I can continue serving like this or continue serving like this. And to my surprise, my church leadership was actually okay. It didn't happen and it's because they've been trying to educate themselves about depression. And then I realized that I was anxious because of my previous church experiences. My previous church experiences where I felt like you can't even be sick. So I feel like it was those, I mean, for me, I'm quite blessed. The church that the church family that I belong to now, I feel like they're trying. But I just want to urge abazalwane to try and educate themselves about mental illness, simply because we are a people of faith and we walk around speaking of God's great mercy and his supernatural power of healing. We speak up, we pray for people mabekula. Some of us have designated ministries within our churches that go out to hospitals to pray for people that are admitted in hospitals. But as soon as it's depression, abazalwane want to deny it. I just want to urge abazalwane ukuthi accept ukuthi God can use medicine to heal us. You can pray over someone and God can miraculously heal them. And then also God can use doctors and medicine to heal that person. So if I'm admitted in the hospital for depression, or that other person is in the hospital admitted for depression or whatever other illness, and the illness persists for however long, you guys are praying for 6 months, for a year, they're still depressed, can you trust that if God doesn't heal this person supernaturally and immediately, can you trust that he can do so using medicine as well? Because do we not believe ukuthi uNkulunkulu usiphile ubuhlakani, wanika odokotela the wisdom to then come up with whatever that they come up cures and remedies for our ailments, you know? So I had to just teach that to myself and then put it as a boundary around me. Uguti, I'm currently on antidepressants, which is a treatment plan. I also have doctors that are my healthcare professionals. They're taking care of me health-wise. And I had to teach myself, uguti, that is God's hand of healing over you. Even if you don't wake up tomorrow ungaseko depressed, God's hand of healing is still working actively.
I'm thinking, Juguti, sometimes it even helps to have people around you who are going to be supportive to what you're going through. Because as you are actually explaining, I'm actually feeling the possibility, Yoguti, there are more people out there who are actually going through this on their own because they just don't know how to actually present it to abazalwane that are around them. And trust me, depression is hard enough.
Yes, support.
I am thankful to a friend of mine that I have, Ulindo. At one point in time, he even said to me, how about you go and read Psalms, because maybe you'll have an understanding of what depression has been there for a long time. Even certain parts of David, he's actually depressed. And when I read Psalms for the first time, there are certain parts that I got to understand. This guy was actually going through his emotions, man. And he was honest about them. He was honest before the Lord, and he was okay with everything that he was going through. He would express himself before the Lord. But you find that when you try and express yourself now, it's as if you are speaking ancient language or something that they do not understand. Because it's not every book in the Bible where it's like, because you're actually saying words that are coming from the Lord directly. But David is actually speaking from his emotions, from his heart. And
I appreciate that. Nami, I had a friend who, her name is Unel. She played a huge part in me having an easy acceptance, should I say, to my diagnosis, and then just allowing things to happen as they would happen. If she wasn't there, I probably would have had a difficult time. Nami, she would sort of prep me and say, if the therapist says this, it's not a big deal. There's a lot of us who go through A, B, C, D, and E.
Yeah, so it sounds like a small thing, but it's big.
Huge. I mean, I remember even before I got hospitalized, Uneli spoke to me probably maybe a month before, and she said, Sissy, they might want to admit you, but don't be scared because it's very normal.
She prepped you for it.
So by the time my doctor says, Uti, oh, ngifuna ukwenza admission, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, man, just sing yes, and whatever, you know what I mean? So by the time that came, I said to my doctor, no problem, you know, let's proceed with the admission. And if then I feel like it would have been, as much as depression is difficult, it would have been difficult for my doctors to then bang atulisa the way that they were able to, you know, effortlessly so, because if she wasn't there, stigma, you know, what's your antidepressants, you know, which is why I also speak out. I speak out about my antidepressants, taking them, because I want other people to know, hey, guys, we're out here, we are suffering, but we are also fighting. Don't fight in silence by yourself. Are you getting hospitalized? So have we. Are you getting antidepressants for the next year? So have we.
There's a reason why we meet certain people in our lives. Because sometimes you would limit yourself with the people that are actually here, only to find which your healing is going to come from a person from another church. Because now amasondo aneyinqubo engafani and neyinqubo zawo futhi ziyaba umthelela. It's how you perceive the world.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Like how I was telling you, Guti, whenever I lost my mom, I belonged to one church. And then as soon as she passed away, my sister and I had to quickly transition from one church to another.
And I'm sure that was hard as well.
Very hard, but I strongly believe it was God's hand. I strongly believe it was God's hand, because we needed the environment is exactly
what we needed at this point in life. In the season that you're going through. So what are your favorite mental health resources, things that help you cope with or things that make you understand yourself better, man? Like, is it books? Is it podcasts? What is it that helps you? Like,
firstly, therapy again.
You love therapy, Shane.
Therapy again. So I love therapy because I better express myself when I speak. Sometimes I understand myself for the first time once I've said a thing. It's in my brain until I type it out.
And you know,
or
that's
I write
weird
it.
Because when you go to therapy, it's actually you who's doing the talking, which means it really works for you to express yourself and just speak.
It helps you go to understanding.
Once so you keep it.
Can I just tell you a joke? My sister and I were at the gym, and she hates using the gym showers. So she's busy panicking, like, hey, Bomina, no, I can't. I don't want to use the gym showers. Okay, I mean, and then she says, "Gets me okay. Gym shower. Let's just go home. You'll shower at home." No, but abantu bengihlangana nabo outside bazongibona ukuthi I'm still wearing the same outfit engene ngayo. So inkinga yami manje bazobona ukuthi angigezile.
Kanivela ugezile.
So then bese ngithi mina again, oh, then ufuna kube ngathi ugezile ungagezanga, then just change your clothes. And then she said to me, uyazi bengakayicabangi leyo ngwana kisikhulunywa wena sengicabanga. Her thoughts were so confusing. She keeps saying it, and I'm like, then just change your clothes. And she's like, oh yeah, yes. So sometimes you need to vocalize something, and then for someone to just collect that thought for you. That's what a therapist does, you know. I remember my psychiatrist once said to me, I think you have a fear of being judged. And I was just like, I don't care what people think about me. Until I realized she was right. I thought about it for months and months, and I realized she was right. You don't ask to step down because you fear that they will judge you as umuntu ongakholwa. You fear that they're going to say, and then I had to realize what I really, like, I lived my life from layer of fear of being judged as.
And you need to be true to yourself.
Yes, like, you know, every single thing I did was just, it was stemming from layer of fear. I have to help Uspusi do this, otherwise she's gonna think I don't care about
And it's
her.
always like that.
Otherwise she's gonna think. Otherwise, and then I was like,
it's just
alright.
one thing that
Yes.
leads you to making a lot of wrong
connections.
decisions.
Hey. So then I was like, S'phesihle, the doctor was right. I do have a fear of being judged. And then it prevents you from being your true self.
Yeah.
So then once I accepted that, I was like, no. I started more and more to say no to people. If I'm unavailable, I'll just say no.
Oh, yo, I feel like I really needed this talk.
You know, started to say no. No doesn't mean I'm a bad Christian. You know, no doesn't mean I'm a bad Christian. Ukuthi ngizi preserve ngazi kahle ukuthi angikho right.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean I'm a bad Christian.
Prioritizing your health.
Yes, God doesn't hate me for it. God doesn't hate me for the fact that I said to my pastors, can I step down? Can I stay at home for iskashan? And then ngibuke inkonzo virtually because by stream ngihlale nangempela ngibuke futhi virtually. I was so thankful ukuthi lo udokotela wayisho lento, even though ngayideny ngaleso sikhathi yahlala in my heart. And then sengiloke ngiyacabanga ngiyakhona no, she's real. A second thing is for me has really been journaling. Balance. I love to write my thoughts.
Yeah.
I love
thoughts out. It helps.
Yes, I love to write. Funny enough, I'm a podcast angwalaleli. For the life of me, ngiyahluleka with the podcast that's like 2 hours.
It's too long. I hope you don't take that long.
No, I saw your channel and I was like, oh wow, the length is nice. For sure. Sometimes you find that it's 2 hours. I mean, there was one therapist who says, please watch this such and such podcast, ET topic. 3 or 2 hours. I had to tell him, no, I'm sorry. As much as I'd love to we funda lento abakhuluma 2 hours,
it's
I
long.
can't, you know.
Sometimes feel like you need to squeeze in these things while you're driving to work.
That's my
driving
thing.
to the mall.
That's what my friend said to me.
It's like 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah, my friend lives in PMB. So she is driving an hour to work, an hour back.
Yes.
So she can afford to listen to one podcast because 1 hour to work, 1 hour going back home. And I was like, hey, but it takes me 10 minutes to get home.
Yeah.
So my drive from work to Ekaya podcast hour, you know. So I'm a podcast. I love to see short clips. I'm not gonna lie, because it's my kind of thing. I love when people engage and stuff like that, which is where my third thing is. Sometimes I'll speak about a topic to my sister or on social media, and then I'll have people answer me, you know, about that certain topic. That helps me a lot as well, just to process him. Just sometimes, even if it's a Christian topic, should we do this or should we do that? Then let's edify each other, you know, and learn from each other. Yeah, so I love to do that. It's therapy. It's talking outside of therapy and writing, and I'm trying to start reading books, manje, which I'm enjoying.
Join our book
and
club.
Then I will. And then go those that have been suggested to me by my doctors, which is your sizing, which I've recently started.
Oh my God. I've been paying for the
well.
gym for a long time. And
girl, you better go.
Years and years and years.
You better go. So I've recently started exercising. It really does help. So I don't do too much. I just enjoy, you know, mangzo walker, we treadmill walker, and that's it. And I don't watch what I eat. I just go to that gym for my mental health.
I love that
I
for
go
you.
to that gym for my mental health. I exercise, I go home.
I love that for you. How you are doing things for yourself now.
Someone said to me that earlier this year, and I was like, thank you so much. Because for the longest time, I wasn't.
Because I know, Guti, how it feels to do things for yourself and no one else. And for a long time now, I suffered from the same thing. And when years went by and when I started like actually checking out, Guti, what is it that I've been doing wrong?
Yes.
That's when I realized, it's okay, you know what, take care of yourself more.
Yeah.
And it's refreshing.
Yes,
it's refreshing.
yes.
And I love that you are doing that.
Thank you.
I love that for you. So when you feel overwhelmed, and you feel, because it happens, some people think that depression is only that one point in time, one episode,
Yes.
and what I know, Mina,
Yes.
since I've been through it,
Yeah.
I know it's a process.
Yes.
It takes time, and it's not something that you can just snap out of it, as we've said. You can't just say, okay, I was depressed for this time, now it's enough. Yabo. You can't do that. It's a process.
Yes.
So what do you do when you feel overwhelmed? What are the things that you've actually tried and actually put in place? Okay, when I feel overwhelmed, or when I see what it's coming now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what are those things?
So you're right, depression is not linear. It's a very complicated process.
Yeah.
And for some of us, it's a lifelong process. For some of us, right after some time, we can't really tell who's going to have depression forever and who's not going to have depression for a long time. But knowing depression doesn't only stem from one place, for me, has helped me to better manage myself and my surroundings. So in this way, I learned S'phesihle depression can be inherited.
Okay.
You can inherit depression from your parents. Depression can ingabe le hormonal imbalance at esikhuluma ngayo.
Yes.
And can also be caused by environmental factors, so what's happening around you and then whatever's happening in you. So I try to control what I can control. One day this therapist said to me, what's in your circle of control? I think he said circle of control or cycle of control. But when he taught me Leonto, then I began to try to better manage every single thing that I can control, I control. And everything that I can't control, I stop worrying about it.
Okay.
So if I can control ukuthi njengoba ngikhathele namhlanje, I'm not going to do A, B, C, D, and E. I'm not going to do it. Okay. My therapist taught me, she said, yazi ukuthi I know your energy incane. And when you think about the days, you see, like mukabanga nje up until the end of 2023, you see it as just this hopeless, long life. She said, I want you to think of your life as just one day at a time. So if today is Monday, just think about Tuesday. Uguti, tomorrow, I'm going to make ujek and focus on that. Don't think, oh Lord, how am I going to live without my mom in 2024? How am I going to live with, She said, just focus on ujek. So today, all you're doing is focusing on buying ingredients for. That's all. Do not use your energy for anything else. And then she says, that's what you do. And then tomorrow, you make ujeke wako and you're done making ujeke. You say, tomorrow I'm going to do my nails. And then that's what you focus on.
The word of God is life, ne?
And
because there's even a word that says, do not be anxious about anything.
But with prayer and supplication,
but
make
we
your requests
choose
known to the Lord.
worry.
I've just taught myself to, once I feel, okay, you know what, I'm about to relapse into depression, I start taking control over those little things that manje says ngibambile, because kunzima ukuthi all the time uhlala umuntu all right. Sometimes you end up worrying about the future. So I have to call myself back. Stop thinking about 2024. You don't even know if you're going to be alive in 2024. So stop. Just, the Bible says, today has enough worries of its own.
Yes.
Today has enough worries of its own. So I try to control. It's very difficult for someone who suffers from anxiety and overthinking. But you can try just by focus on izinto ozozenza.
Manje.
And then lastly, every time I feel like I'm about to fall back into depression, I let someone know. Firstly, maybe my sister. I withdraw again.
I'm so glad you touched that point.
I withdraw, like I delete WhatsApp, I delete this, I delete that. And lastly, I see my therapist and my psychiatrist. Because for me, I do come from a black family, and sometimes it's scary being from a black family and for them to know, nah man, she's still on antidepressants. So I'd rather go back to my therapist, go back to my psychiatrist, have the necessary care. If I'm being prescribed medication, I come back home and tell them, oh no, now I'm back on medication. Instead of seeking an opinion first And then umuntu is going to be like,
that's where I was going.
Yes.
Sometimes even the people around influence your decisions.
Yes.
Now, when you feel overwhelmed, do you not feel like when you share too much?
Yes.
There are those people, because I know for sure, there are people that I've cut off from my life, and I am quite happy. Not because I hate them or maybe I have some sort of beef with them, but I do feel as if whenever I was going through certain things or whenever I express myself, they would have this negative opinion or negative. So I'd be like, you know what? In order for my sanity, let me just choose. Okay, keep them at a distance. And whenever I'm going through something, I'm only gonna share with these people who understand what I'm going through better.
Yes, that's definitely what I've also done. Oversharing sometimes now, and I learned somewhere that oversharing it stems from a fear of rejection. How about that? And I was like, I thought about it and I was like, they're right. These people might not like me. So let me just tell them absolutely everything about me. And they might just accept me. You know? So I had to learn to not overshare. Definitely. And I learned so I've started doing it first, going to my doctor first, and then
that's freedom. It's freedom. Getting to make your decision, stick by it, do it, then come back and be like, this is what I've done. I also heard between the answer you just gave me now, a part where you spoke about letting go of control. I feel like that's one thing that we also need to understand. Uguti, you can't control everything. I think it also frustrates you knowing Uguti, I am trying to control this and I am failing. I am failing to control this in my life. And when you let go of that control, you start to feel as if like, a burden has been lifted off me. And it's very important for you to realize, Uguti, there are certain things that you can't control. You can't control them, just leave them to God. Let God decide on how to deal with them.
And can you imagine, we are Christians of how many years? Buddhist, but we're only learning these things now. Just let God.
Dude, we needed this. We needed this talk.
Let God take care of it. Let God
because it's not just us who's actually having all of these thoughts, who's actually going through these things, but there's also other people who are going through them, but they're actually scared. They don't know how to deal with them because even their families don't understand. And with their therapist, with therapy, it's limited to a certain time. By the time you are done offloading everything, time is finished. And you can't even go back and say, now my other issue is so
you have to wait until the next therapy session.
I know. Now with your work, I just want to understand, Uguti, at work, how did they receive you going through things? Because when you go through things, obviously even at work they are going to notice, and there's going to be times where you just don't want to go to work. And obviously your management will not understand that you are actually not okay. And when you are distracted and when you're going through things, it's evident on the work that you do, Uguti, okay, this person is actually going through things, but sometimes they choose to ignore the part that you are also a human, and being human means that you also have a life of your own and you also go through things as well. So they just want to focus on work, and they would come at you with this mentality of thinking that you just don't want to work.
I can't say productivity decreased. I think that's one area of my life that I'm still trying to fix right now, 2 years after my depression diagnosis. I was just telling my therapist, I'm doing so well. I'm like trying to get hobbies. I'm working out. I'm journaling. I'm setting time to do like a little bit of a painting every now and then. But just this area, yasemsebenzini, is the one area that's just bringing me down.
Okay.
So I think emsebenzini, I just didn't allow myself to visibly break down like I have in every other area of my life. I remember even telling my psychiatrist, don't write my diagnosis on my doctor's notes. And then she wrote it here, not to know, because like she wants them to know what's it. She wrote it. So I think the only thing that was affected emsebenzini is actually getting to work on time. Like I struggled because I have trouble sleeping, and then put on my sleeping pills, and then it's a whole ripple effect. So in that area, I really just sat down with my manager and I'm telling, you know what, I'm not coming late because I'm dilly-dallying about my work. I really try to get to work on time, but sometimes thinking I may look. And then I told him, when I come late, late, I will cover whatever time that I've lost in the morning. It back. Yes, and it's usually 10, 15, 20 minutes, you know. So yeah, area, and I feel like work-wise, it's only now I'm about to begin the work, because I overworked, and now my body is slowing down. Like slowing down so badly. So only now I'm actually about to address myself and address my environment work-wise.
How are you going to do that?
Girl.
I understand with you addressing yourself, but now at work.
Girl. Uzolakha icebo uNkulunkulu. uNkulunkulu uzolakha icebo. Because at this point, child,
it's too much for you.
It is way too much for me. And that's just me being honest, you know?
Because usually people like set you at a certain par. If you are doing this much, we are expecting you to actually, instead of decreasing, you need to increase. So how are you going to?
Guys, God is good all the time.
All you know is that you're tired.
I
love that for you.
Do it. I can't. I wish I could.
My God.
But I can't.
Okay, you're focusing on work. I'm going to tell you what I'm focusing on this year. It's my finances.
Yes, when a girl.
Yeah, like it's definitely on my finances. As I told you, Guti, I would feel bad for having more than others. So what I usually did was give out even when I do not have. And
that's a bad habit.
My therapist kept on telling me, Guti, but you don't have.
Yeah.
There would be a time when I'm explaining, there's an event that I did, and that event like sucked me dry. Like it took everything that I had financially. And whenever I spoke to my therapist during the phase of preparation, and I would tell her, Guti, I actually do not have now, but I don't know what to do. And then she'd be like, why can't you go back to the person who is actually hosting? But he doesn't have. And she'd be like, but do you have?
Yes.
Do you have? Like, I don't. It's just that a long time I ignored those questions because I wanted to get it done and I wanted to make sure I gave it my all. And with other factors as well that came in, that's when I realized, you know what? I'm actually really doing what you were saying. I don't have it. Why do I keep pouring even when I do not have?
From an empty cup.
You know?
Pouring from an empty cup.
That's what my friends said when I told them, Guti, hey guys, I am suffering. And I'm starting to notice now, Guti, I would have it, but I would give it to someone else.
That's called being black. You know what my aunt said?
Black tax.
Like, yes, my aunt works emshiyeni, and she said one time, khona psychologist ebisebenza khona ewumlungu. Uthi psychologist yathi kumina, yazi abantu abamnyama banazi inkinga.
Yeah.
And then what do you mean? Every time manginomuntu omnyama, patient umuntu omnyama, it's not them. It's ingane kadadewethu, cousin wami, I'm giving my money to. I'm depressed because I lack. I don't lack. I have money, but ngiseskweletin because I'm giving it to someone else. I have a home, I have space, I have food in my house.
Yeah, a home that I can afford.
Because mina ngihle nengane zadadewethu eziwu4 la. Umlungu akatholi.
Aka-understand
Dalwa
ukuthi
yithi hlale nengane zadadewenu eziwu4 la endlini.
Uzazi kahle ukuthi imali yakhe ilingene wena nomntanakho.
Yes. So just us as black people, sinaleyo nto. That's why ngithi background yethu, into yethu isuka from background yethu, and there's a lot of unlearning that needs to be done. There's a lot of unlearning that needs to be done just to realize that I'm not a bad Christian for prioritizing myself. I'm not an evil person for prioritizing myself.
Phela ngithi nje cousin baba nalento ukuthi usephakeme.
Topic for another day. We can talk for hours. We can talk for hours. Hello.